My name is Willy Bolander. I study influence, persuasion, and leadership in selling and sales management, and I teach people how to sell. In this podcast, we'll talk to some of the world's top sales leaders and see what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Sales Lab.
We are here with Chad Murff at Eaton. What is your actual title, Chad?
Yeah, Willie, I'm sales director of our OEM division for the region. So basically, Eaton's divided up into several different groups that we service, and OEMs are one piece of the groups that we service. Lots of different ones between residential, data center, commercial, and industrial. So we service the OEMs in my team.
This content is brought to you by the TIES Sales Showdown. That's the Technical, Industrial, and Engineering Student Sales Showdown, hosted right here at Texas A&M University. We have over 200 engineering students taking sales classes every semester and a growing minor program in technical sales. These students are smart enough for STEM and savvy enough for sales, and the TIES Showdown allows them to demonstrate their selling skills in a role-play competition where industry partners, like you, serve as judges and provide them coaching feedback. If you're hiring for technical, industrial, or engineering sales roles anytime in the next couple of years, this is an event you can't miss. You can learn more at tx.ag/TIES. That's tx.ag/TIES. Hope you can join us.
And before we get into the sales specific stuff, can we take a broad overview of what Eaton is, what Eaton does?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Eaton is a power management organization. Eaton's been around for over 100 years, based out of the U.S. Our corporate headquarters is in Cleveland, Ohio. And very diversified company. Our biggest group is our electrical sector, but we do also play in what we call an industrial sector. And for us, that means we're in aerospace and we're in automotive and heavy trucking. So we do a lot of electrical on one side and then varied products on the other that are usually internal. So, when you hear the name Eaton, it's not usually a household name because our products are usually behind a wall, under a hood, inside an aircraft, something like that. So lots of technical parts and pieces is where we really specialize to create a solution for our customers.
Now, is there any part of Eaton's that a professor would have unknowingly interacted with? Like if I'm driving my car or doing something at the house or here on campus, am I near any of Eaton's products?
Absolutely. So in your house, if you go check the breaker panel in your residence, it's probably about a 45 to 50% chance it's an Eaton product. Some of our competitors are in that space, depending on the car you drove. And this is not my side of the business, so I don't know, but I believe Volvo and a few others use our turbochargers. Our valve train parts are in a lot of engines. Again, I don't know exactly what engines. And then probably the one that most people that are listening to this would never know unless they've driven a Class 8 truck. Our transmissions are in about 60% of trucks on the road today. So you see all the brands of trucks out there, but it usually has our transmission in it. So it's kind of neat. Our products are everywhere. You just, again, don't see them.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Okay, so really, in a broad sense, technical sales could mean probably, all of these different things, all of these different business lines would probably have a different variation of this. But so focusing on the OEM side, what is technical sales?
I mean, for us, and I mean, not even just the OEM side, but for everything, it's really just providing a complex solution. And the complexity can range depending on the customer that we're calling on. It can range from a residential application up to an industrial application. And some of those applications can be very heavy from a technical standpoint. Some are pretty light. And having a technical aptitude in our environment, it's important, but it's also a trait that can be learned over time. So when people come into Eaton, we don't expect them to know all the applications, but having that technical aptitude, because you're going to call on a customer with a technical solution, you want to be able to have that aptitude. When I think about the industrial distribution program at A&M, that's taught in a lot of the classes, some of the questions to ask, and just starting to develop a mindset around technical solutions.
And can you give us a glimpse into maybe a day in the life of? I mean, what types of specific activities are you doing? What do your engagement with customers look like? These sorts of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's it's hard to say a typical day, but I mean, my sales team spends a lot of time, calling on a customer at different levels. So some of our customers are mid-sized customers. So we usually know someone high up in the organization that's helping us with, hey, I have a problem that I need Eaton to solve. And so we're usually working with an engineer to determine if they have a specification that's already set, what product does Eaton have? And sometimes these customers know our products as well as we do. So they say, hey, I'm looking at this particular product. Can you help me understand it a little bit more? And so that's where the discussion starts. Sometimes we are coming in more cold than that, where we need to explain, here's something that we offer that maybe you didn't recognize Eaton offered in the marketplace. And so here's how we're different. Here's how we're better than the product that you're using today. And so that requires that our salespeople understand a little bit of the background of how our product works in their application. And so, one of the things that I always try to get my salespeople to do is they don't have to be an expert, like I said, on our product, but they need to start understanding what are the markets that we serve and what are some of the important criteria for the markets. And just about every market you can think of, it's about uptime. How do I keep my product working longer without having to turn it down? Because as soon as you turn something off, whether it's a process or whatever it is, it starts costing money because you're not producing a widget, you're not providing the energy, whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
it's really all about revenue generation, right? So that's what we're trying to help them understand is how are we going to help you provide either for your own company or for your customer, reliable revenue generation. And so that's when we start getting into the technical features and functions of our product and how it may work in their particular application.
What's the split between, maybe a brand new business that you're trying to go in there and capture their attention for the first time versus, recurring business from accounts you've done other things with?
I would say we're probably about 75% existing business, 25% brand new. But even when I say existing, that 75%, they're always going into new applications. So for example, it may be someone who's in the oil and gas space that sees, hey, renewables are a big portion of this. Well, we still need that energy generation and that reliability, but now we're going to apply it differently because the source is now coming from a renewable energy. So it's a different approach to a similar problem. So that 75%, yeah, it's return business. They're coming to us, but it is a new application. So we see that a lot. And in fact, we see that so much, I have to kind of push my salespeople to go after like truly brand new business customers that we've never spoken to in the past, building new relationships, right?
Yeah. And so the people that you're speaking with at these customer organizations, do they tend to be engineers? Do they tend to be product managers, purchasing agents?
All three, depending on where we're starting in the relationship. Engineers are where we spend a bulk of our time, and maybe project managers, business development people. So depending on the size of the business, that may be all one person, or it could be, 10 different people. But usually engineers are where we camp out until we get to the transaction phase and it becomes a pricing discussion and a purchasing discussion. So it's all about, application. What are the ratings of our products? What can we meet? Is there some specific need that you have that needs to be explained in our product? Or maybe there's something that needs to be developed that's tweaked in our product to meet their specific application.
Okay. And so somebody in a technical sales role, are they also working with people within Eaton to provide support, or if they need extra technical expertise, or do they really need to be the self-contained expert?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a lot of support. So my sales team cannot possibly be the expert in everything. So we have a pretty big portfolio of what someone on my team is responsible for. So typically the customers they have a relatively small basket, that 80-20 rule, that 80% of what I sell is 20% of my volume. So they know those products pretty well. But there's always a next level. And even when I started in sales out of Texas A&M years ago, I always thought, man, I've got to be an expert in everything. But I found, you find out after 20 plus years that you're never going to know everything. And so we do have people and what we call tier level support. So we have on most products about three tiers of support from, a little bit more than a salesperson would typically know to a little bit higher. And then finally, like that high end programming and really into the design of our product that we need for some of our customers.
Do you consider those support tiers, the individuals in those roles? Are they, I mean, they're also interacting with the customer, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, so they're part of the selling function as well.
They can be sometimes they're field support where they're actually out, arm in arm with my salesperson. Other times they are in a remote location, whether here in the States or elsewhere, providing phone-in support. And if it's a big enough project and we really need to have some in person, we fly people in to make sure that the design discussions, application discussions are headed in the right direction, that all the wrinkles are ironed out before we get to that first solution off the end of the production line, if you will.
This is good. I mean, I like this idea of, okay, it's not really about knowing every single thing or having all the knowledge when you walk in the gate, but we do need to have a certain, I like the word aptitude or capability or competence, right? That says, okay, I don't know everything about the inner workings of this, but I can keep track of some details because in this context, the details, I'm guessing, are pretty important. And I can remember, okay, I need to make sure this person in the back of the room is as happy as this person in the front of the room, and keep track of the fact that most of these things have a lot of moving parts. How many people are in the buying center in most of these situations? Are you dealing with a focal point person, or is it a buying committee that you're working with?
Oh, wow. Yeah, usually it's a focal person. There's one person that has the lead. In very large customer situations, when you're talking about, a couple $100 million organization and larger, then you start getting into the committees. So that's not typical though. But some of our national and international customers, that's what we're up against, and you get into some pretty deep, bidding situations. But usually the interesting thing is, although it's technical sales that I need, usually it's more about a relationship. It's about building that relationship up. And if it's a buying committee, it's only a couple of people, and sometimes it's only one who's really making that decision. And so we really see that building up a relationship of trust is what's required. And trust is on several levels, right? Trust is understanding what our product can do, what our commitments are, but it's also getting back to the customer on time and really listening to what the requirements are. Because as you've heard and have seen, a lot of times salespeople come in and they think, oh, if I just keep talking and talking and talking about the product, that's going to sell it. When really the trick is understanding when to just shut up and listen to what the customer needs. What does the customer's application demand? And are you really listening for what they need? And then maybe some things that are unspoken that they haven't said, but you're translating based on the solution they're trying to get to. And so that's where you get away a little bit from the technical, and it kind of gets into that interpersonal skills of really understanding the body language of the person that's sitting across the table from you. Hopefully you're doing it in person, because on the phone is always a little bit harder. But that body language and really saying, okay, I hear you saying this, and we can provide this option, but this option may also be interesting. Have you ever thought about this? And so trying to give them a few options as you're listening. And the more you talk, the less you're understanding what their real challenge is that they're trying to solve.
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned the uptime being a big driver of these decisions. Why would somebody buy what you're selling? Well, because it costs in many cases probably an astronomical amount of money to turn a system off. And when you have to turn it off, you want it to be as quick as possible to turn it back on. And that's, it's always interesting when, there's a lot of technical things that give rise to that benefit, right? Okay, It's because of this part. It's because of this new development and innovation in this process. But at the end of the day, it's save me some money, keep my machine running, and those are about as basic as it gets. Those are pretty untechnical. Do you like money? Do you like getting your work done more quickly and making more money from it? And yeah, we like these. So what other types of value propositions or what makes somebody say yes to Eaton in a sales interaction?
Yeah, I think having a business acumen, like really understanding what's going on in the customer's world, what's driving to the decision for this purchase. The example I like to use is, if you're in your house and you go and open up your breaker panel and you look at all those breakers, well, that's one of the things that we sell. And when I go to buy a home and it's got these breakers in it, I don't really buy the home because it has breakers in it, right? No one's When they buy a solution from us, we're selling breakers that are a lot more expensive than what's in your home. They don't really want a breaker. They're trying to solve a problem, but the breaker has to be in the system. So how is that breaker going to help my overall solution? And so I like to look at it from that perspective. And so therefore, I need to understand what's going on in their application, like what's making the decision for them. Are they trying to pump water somewhere? Are they trying to pump some expensive chemical somewhere? And if I have something that can help them manage that better than the next best alternative, then that's a great opportunity for me. But I need to understand that application. And some of those things they may not tell me. So I need to understand by doing some research. Do I understand my markets? Have I used, LinkedIn and Google to research, maybe the business that they're in? So yeah, there's that technical aptitude coming in again, but I'm doing some research on my own, on behalf of the customer. So I understand, okay, my product may do something a little better than the next best alternative. Now that I know this is where the market's going and this is how they're trying to drive increased revenue. So really understanding the markets is key. And for us, when we get new students out of school, that's something that, that's going to take some time to start learning and understanding what are those relationships that your customers have into these end markets, and how can we make those customers more profitable? Because the more profitable my customer is, the more they're going to want to come back to us for a solution.
There's an idea among marketing scholars, eggheads, called the service dominant logic, and in some ways you could summarize in a simple way. You could summarize it by saying the old adage, people don't buy a drill, they buy a hole. And so anything that will produce a hole for cheaper, for better, is a competitor of the drill, right? And but then once you start to dissect that issue, you realize almost everything we buy, even when it's encompassed in a good, we're buying it because it's a service.
Yes.
What does the breaker do for me? Well, it keeps my lights on. It gives me a good experience. It helps me not have to replace things too often. It's all about a service, and it's very experiential. And that's, so it's interesting to hear you say that, right? Yeah, it's we sell, you guys sell things, and yet that's not necessarily what the customers are buying,
right?
Psychologically, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, maybe for not all of your students, but most of our customers, when we walk in the door, we carry a reputation with us. So, and with that reputation, they know Eaton's been around for 100 plus years. I can buy this product and I'm not going to get a negative review from anyone above me, senior management, that says, why would you have bought Eaton? If it's somewhere from China that's a low cost country, sometimes they're going to say, why would you buy from them? But if they say, hey, why'd you buy from Eaton? That was a solid decision. So now we have to come in and back that up with meeting the expectations of the customer by providing them application support, technical support, giving them what they need when they need it. So that's where those relationships really come into play. And our best customers, I mean, my biggest customer on my team today has been a customer of Eaton's for about 40 years. And clearly that's not the same people dealing with each other over 40 years. That's really generations of people dealing with one another over a long period of time. And there's trust that's built up, right? And during that time, you've lost some trust and you gain some trust. And so you go through a sine wave of, how is their business? How is our business? And so those are the things but at the end of the day, are we able to support them technically? Because that's what they need in order to continue driving their revenue so that they can become, move from a $10 million company to a $100 million company. And we're there to grow with them. And so those are some of the fun things that I like to look at from a technical sales standpoint. Is it's really about building a relationship of trust that you've now given them the solution that they need. Now they're going to trust you for the next transaction. And so that's our goal, is, that stickiness of, this is not about the product, although there is product piece in there, but do they trust us to deliver on the product and it always meet the expectation?
So, what type of objections do you guys get when you're out selling?
Oh, good question. Probably the biggest objection, particularly right now, and this one's a strange one, but it's really about delivery. The markets are so strong right now. Everyone wants to get their piece of electrical equipment as fast as possible, and everyone's lead times are still pretty long. And so that's the biggest objection. If you can get it to me on time, then I'm willing to pay a little bit of a premium. Now, if I rewind about 4 or 5 years ago, price was a little bit more of an objection, and that's something that we would have to deal with and figure out. Okay, how can we do better on price? And it's always just toggling back between that price and availability. Usually, we don't have technical objections. I mean, there's times where we just don't have the product for the particular application, but usually it's not technical objections.
Yeah, so it's not a situation where you're claiming that you have a product that will help them achieve whatever they're trying to create, and they're not convinced that it's going to work, and you have to, do a proof of concept or a test on it.
Yeah, good. That's good. So yeah, there are proof of concepts that is common. So I wasn't considering that as an objection, but yeah, we do that. So like a first article inspection, for example. So we may be in the OEM environment, there are design cycles. So they're using one of my competitors today, but they have a new design they're going to put out, and they really like Eaton's products. So before they start buying it from me in bulk, they're going to produce a first article. And so that first article is going to be put through its paces, whatever they may be. They probably want some certification tests from us, which we provide to them. We have, in some cases, we'll bring an application engineer out or an integration engineer that would help integrate it into whatever their solution is. And so those can become objections, to your point, Willie, if we end up with a problem at some point in that process. And those things happen. And so when those things happen, that's, go back again to my technical aptitude, my relationship. How do we manage these things? We just went through a customer test where they had to do a test with a third party underwriter's laboratory, UL, and our product failed. And they said, "How did your product fail?" And they gave us the test report back. And so we go through all of those things with them. And, it's a 1 in 1,000 chance that it failed, but it did fail. So now we're on the process of, through that relationship, hey, this product will work. That one had an error in manufacturing. And so we're up and running again with that customer. But we've built that trust over years with them. They know that all products aren't perfect. And so that particular one, we work through it. So those are those things where it's like that equity that you build up with a relationship and with the technical know-how that they recognize, okay, this is a one-off that happened with our partner on this one.
Gotcha. And can you tell us the difference between the application engineer and the integration engineer? What specifically are they doing that's different?
Oh, yeah. So an application engineer, they're focused more on talking with end users to get products specified in. So I'll just use a simple breaker example. So we want you to specify using an Eaton breaker at this particular voltage and amperage, okay? And whenever you have a project and you write a specification, Eaton's name is on there, okay? So then bids go out to 20 different companies, and Eaton's name is on there. You need to use an Eaton breaker. And usually it's not you need to use an Eaton breaker. It's usually Eaton and maybe one other manufacturer, two other manufacturers. An integration engineer, however, it's not about product selection as much as it is putting a product into a solution and making sure it works together. There's a lot of science involved with our integration. So these folks have more hands-on experience. A lot of times they'll end up going to test labs, and we will help the customer integrate our product so that when they sell a solution, it now is 100% tested, vetted out, and now they can use that design moving forward. So slight difference in those two. But heavy on the technical side on both of those.
Can you walk us through kind of start to finish what an interaction with a customer or prospect might look like? So they come in from where? Where does the lead originate, and how is it handled, and does it move from one party to the other along your sales process, and just kind of start to finish?
Yeah. I'll give you one variation. There's lots of them, but typical is we have distributor partners that we work with. So most of our product is sold through authorized Eaton distributors. So we will have a distributor partner that's calling. They can call on more customers than we can because they have 25 people on their sales team and I only have 5. So they're out there scouring. They're finding other products, not just Eaton, but other products that are complementary. When they find an opportunity, they're talking to a particular customer. The customer says, "Yeah, I have a project for this," and they say, "Huh, you know that I have Eaton as a product line. We may be able to provide a solution for you. Yeah, we'd love to have that." So then one of two things happens. Either the customer knows exactly what they need. That distributor gets the part number or part numbers of all the things that are going to create the system, sends it over. A lot of times our distributors can just quote it on their own and we move forward. I'll do a little bit more complex situation where the distributor can't answer all the questions. So they call up the Eaton salesperson and says, "Hey, come do a joint sales call with me. I need some support on products A, B, and C." And so therefore, then you have, an Eaton salesperson, our distributor salesperson sitting in front of usually a technical person at the customer, probably an engineer who is designing a system, and they start talking through, "Here's what I need for my system." Sometimes it requires a one-line diagram. Other times it's just a bill of material with some part numbers or just descriptions, and we're there to either help fill in the part numbers, or maybe it's a system that they had and they're now changing design. So it's from one of my competitors, and they say, "Can you cross this from brand X to an Eaton product?" And so that kind of starts the process, if you will. A lot of times, particularly during the last few years, as supply chains have been a challenge, they want to try us before they buy us. So maybe they were using one of my competitors. So they'll say, "Well, hey, I'll give you some of this product. Why don't you sell me some of this? And I want to see how you guys perform. And then we'll see if we give you guys more of the business." So there's kind of this test a little bit before we get in deeper with Eaton. And so we see that happen quite a bit. I could go into some more detail. Does that kind of help, Willie? Kind of where you're going
yeah,
with this?
yeah. I mean, if you have more details to go into, by all means, yeah.
Well, so you get into the quotation process of this. So that can get pretty complex, just depending on the product that we're talking about. So in Eaton, we have bidding tools, if you will. So ours is called Bid Manager. And so any kind of complex device that's not just a simple part number that's in stock, we can actually configure in our system. And in that system, my salesperson or an inside salesperson would take the configuration that's necessary. We would build it up, price it based on what we know are market level prices for this particular customer, and submit a bid. So we would submit that bid to the customer. They would have really it's a drawing. It's not like an AutoCAD drawing, but it's a front layout of what the equipment looks like from a dimensional standpoint, its capabilities, its ratings, etc. And the customer can then make a decision on that. And then from there, assuming that they're saying, "Yeah, we want to go ahead and buy this," then that would go through the distributor. They'd hand the distributor an order, and the distributors order directly on our system. Everything's handled automatically between us and our authorized distributors. So it's pretty quick transaction, and then it starts going into the production process.
Now, you said something earlier that I wrote down. You said, you're talking to the customer and you're trying to figure out what they need and what they have going on, and they might not tell you. Why would a customer not tell you something?
Well, usually it's not because they're hiding something. Usually it's something that they believe is understood. They may be such an expert in the field that they're in that they don't even think it's important to point that out. Yeah. Or it's simply they overlooked it. And so that's where it's important for us to really know our products and to know our markets. So asking the right questions and listening become very critical. But yeah, usually they're not there to play games with us. They want us. They don't want us there for hours on end. They have other work to do. So it's usually just an oversight that they thought may have been obvious for us.
Now, why should a young college graduate type of person take a job at Eaton in a technical sales role? What should excite them about that?
Well, I think when I think of new college students, I think of they're excited, they're eager for the future. What do I want to do for the next 30 years plus of my life. And, when I made a decision to come to Eaton, that was kind of where my head was I want to go into sales. However, in Eaton, you can go into sales and you could be a career salesperson, or you could decide, hey, there's a lot of other things I can do, from becoming a service person who's actually doing stuff with the equipment and selling services. Or you could become a marketing person that's doing product development. You could become a distributor person. Production and operations. We have small operations all over the U.S. And so really with a corporation the size of Eaton, the possibilities are endless. Project management, I didn't mention that. We talked about application engineers earlier. We have distributor sales reps that are just focused on managing our partners in the marketplaces. And so, from an Eaton standpoint, there's a lot of possibilities. If you think you want to do sales, great. We've got a lot of sales opportunities. And, I'm one of three managers just in the region. And so there's a lot of salespeople out there. We have over 1,000 salespeople in the US. And so there's a lot going on, and the number of products are endless. And so the neat thing is when you're coming out of college, you may not necessarily know exactly what do I want to go into. And so the exposure to a lot of different facets of, in this case, the electrical industry and different functions within the industry and in the business itself is pretty exciting. And I think that's what we find, whether it's students from A&M or someplace else, we find that, man, they come in and it's almost overwhelming. There's so many things, but once you get settled in, now you can kind of see that, wow, my career can take a lot of different directions. And, if I think of industrial distribution students alone that have come from A&M, we've got them in so many different locations, in sales for sure, but in a lot of different disciplines beyond sales.
That's good to hear you say that. I mean, this is a message I'm always trying to drive home with the students that, you need to come take these sales classes. You need to do the new tech sales minor. If you want to go into sales, and if you don't want to go into sales, this is the entry point into a lot of great organizations. And you say, I want to do marketing. Okay. A lot of these folks don't hire marketing people; they hire salespeople who become marketing people.
Exactly.
Or one of the classics is, I want to go into like training. What are you going to train somebody on if you haven't been in the trenches doing the hard work? No, we're going to start you in sales, and you can get there in a lot of places, but there's a clear entry point. So,
no, that's great. Actually, I didn't even think about training, but yeah, I mean, we've got an entire training department, and if you don't think you need to know how to sell to be a trainer, you're wrong. Those are probably some of the best salespeople we have. Now, they're not interfacing with our customers and our distributors, but they're training. Let's train the trainer, right? They're training our salespeople how to properly sell our products. So yeah, that's it's important. And it's interesting. After being in industry for as long as I haven't yet found a discipline that doesn't sell. I mean, our finance, our attorneys, everyone has to know how to sell, how to present the product or the solution that they have. And whether it's presenting numbers or presenting a legal case on our defense or on the prosecution side, it's all sales. And so, yeah, I think having sales training and having an aptitude and self-awareness about what you're doing in front of the people that you're trying to speak with, I think it's critical.
Yeah. We're actually, we're going to produce some signs later, some yard signs later in the semester that say things like, if you're a CEO, you're in sales. If your research requires funding, you're in sales. If you're an entrepreneur, in sales, couldn't be more true. Okay. So, let's see, I'm looking at the clock and I don't want to keep you too long, but last thoughts that we should, what else should we let the students hear, before we, stop talking? Any big ideas, any messages you think they should hear?
Yeah, and this is what I've learned from hiring for a long time. I used to hire very technical people because we do technical sales. And what I found is I need technical aptitude, but I don't need a genius in engineering that knows how to design everything. The better thing is having those people skills, those skills that know how to interface with someone, know how to ask questions, know when to listen, as I talked about. that I can train the technical piece. And I mean, you guys are doing that in some of the classes there in the industrial distribution program. You're training the basics, right? We do that every day. We have to train the basics. No one's going to come in as an expert in all of Eaton's products or any of Eaton's products for that matter. But if you have this aptitude for being in front of people and engaging with them, curiosity, asking them questions on a regular basis, trying to understand the solution, showing interest, that's what drives a successful salesperson in the Eaton organization. And by the way, it also drives people into higher levels, successively getting, into management and other places within Eaton Corporation, because they show curiosity in the business and they're always asking questions. So there's a real difference in someone that understands the art of doing that and grows into that versus someone that just has a technical aptitude.
Yeah, the curiosity is a word that's come up in a lot of these conversations.
Is it?
That, okay, you see something and you understand a piece of it, but not all of it, and a lot of people just will look at it and go, yeah, well, yeah, whatever,
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah,
I sort of understand it, and there's something about the type of person that looks at that and goes, well, hang on, this piece isn't completely clear to me. Can we dig into that a little bit deeper? And I mean, it certainly mirrors the type of a consultative discovery-based sales process that most of us work with.
yes,
Hey, they said something that wasn't totally clear. Probe on that. Dig deeper. There's something there. There's a reason. Maybe it's not clear to them. Maybe it is clear to them, but they're assuming that it's a necessary evil of what they're trying to do. And maybe you can find a way to show them that that's not the case, right? So
right. I think, Willie, I mean, a lot of times young people have a lack of confidence to ask the question because they think that's something I should already know. But
Oof.
so often you're better off asking that question. Don't just keep your hands in your pockets and nod. If you don't understand, say, wait, can you point that out? Like, help me understand how A plus B plus C adds to this solution here. And a lot of times that curiosity is what gets you to yeah, let me explain this. So yeah, it's so important. It's so important.
Yeah, I having worked with students for a while now, doesn't matter how long. I do think there is a thing as a stupid question. But to me,
There are.
the stupid question is the one where if you look down on the piece of paper in front of you and read the very first sentence,
Yes.
you would know the answer to the question. Okay, that's a stupid question. But most other questions are pretty useful, and none of us are, even the best communicators among us probably are only batting, 50%, 30% precision in the words they choose to use to try to convey things that are often pretty complicated and it's tough to do. And so when you hear something and it's not clear, that could be your fault. That could be their fault. It could be nobody's fault. You could completely understand what they're saying, but they used one piece of jargon that you're not familiar with that has completely thrown your mind into like this block, and you're going,
Right.
oh my gosh, am I an idiot? Do I not understand that? And all they need to say is, oh no, we call this
Exactly.
thing by this
Yeah.
name. You go, oh, okay. All the pieces fall together. So
That's perfect example. Perfect.
so aptitude, keeping track of the complexity, being curious.
Curious.
These are great.
Self-aware is something that I always think about, like just knowing where you are, knowing the amount of talking you're doing, reading those body language of people, and time is precious for people. Like, we try not to like just sit in someone's office for an extended period of time. Like, once we get it done, are we done? Here's my actions. I've got actions A, B, and C, and we're going to get back to you by these dates, and get out of there. They appreciate that. And if they want to have a longer relationship, they'll let you know. And that's when you know, all right, this is good. This is gonna go a long ways, and that's something you build up to over time, right?
Yeah. Anything that people get wrong about technical sales or misconceptions that you'd like to correct?
Everyone thinks sales is the easiest thing. So it's funny when I have a job opening, the amount of project managers and engineers. Sorry, my computer just changed screens on me, so let me fix it.
Sure.
The amount of project managers and engineers that say, yeah, I can do sales. I've been salespeople have been calling on me for years. So this is, how hard can this be? And there's a real art to it. It's something that, it's not made for it's not for everyone. But it is a great starting point. And I say that to a lot of people, that I've had people that they do okay in sales, but I encourage them sometimes, like, you'd probably be better in management or maybe operations. But having that customer interface is so important, like understanding what our customer needs and what does it feel like to deliver good news, and what does it feel like to deliver bad news to a customer. And learning how to do both of those, because, by the way, you're going to be selling that in whatever other job you have, whether it's finance, operations, engineering, whatever it is. There's always good news and bad news. You have to be able to sell that, and make it okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty important.
Yep. Good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to tell us a little bit more about Eaton and a little bit of your thoughts on technical sales. And we're looking forward to seeing you on campus.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me, Willie. Really, really appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
That's it for this interview. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Of course, if you did, be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever app you use to listen. Also, share this with your colleagues and friends, and let's continue to have a deeper discussion on all things related to selling and sales leadership. See you next time in the Sales Lab.